Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's Wallsend history story. As said with the first video, which was similar to this one, this is not really a history story, but this is another video again of several old Wallsend photos, and I will be telling you a little bit about each one. Now I hope that it will bring back some memories for you all and that you will enjoy looking at the old photos as well. And this is video number 2 in the old photos series. In this first photo, which I have cropped, you can see the Ottawa ship at Swan Hunters. I think this is possibly the launch day for the ship as well. Now the Ottawa was launched in June of 1964 and it was completed in December of the same year. The ship did have a name change in later years, which I am not going to attempt to pronounce, and was eventually broken up in 1990. The full photo looks like this, and I absolutely love it. What I like about it is the way people have taken things down to the fence and the wall so that they can get a better view. You can see step ladders and chairs, and some people are even standing on bikes. You can see one man who seems to be balanced on the bike seat, and the boy next to him is balanced on the bar. I think it's called the T-bar, I could be wrong. I don't know much about bikes anyway. I must admit though that I would rather have been standing on a chair or a ladder than a bike. But it does show you how popular the ship launches were and how much effort people would go to get a good view. But you also can see from those who aren't standing on anything that without some help you'd not actually be able to see over the wall and the fence. You can also see a couple of fantastic old prams in the photo as well. The next photo that you can see is again a cropped picture, and it shows the Esso Northumbria on launch day. The Esso Northumbria was launched on May the 2nd, 1969 and was completed on May the 14th, 1970. Sadly, unlike the first ship in this video, she didn't have a very long life and was broken up in 1982, oddly also in May. The full photo, which you can now see, shows you the view down Leslie Street, and Leslie Street is probably one of the most famous streets in Wallsend because of the many photos of the ships that were at the bottom of it. This photo again shows just how popular launch days were. Now I love the man at the back with the walking stick who seems to be running down the road to get there on time so that he doesn't miss anything. And you can also see people in the upstairs flats looking out of their windows, and they probably had the best view of everyone there that day. I do love these launch day photos, although sadly I never actually went to a single one, and I honestly don't know why, and I do wish now that I had seen at least one of them. So how many of you watching, listening to this, whatever, did go to the ship launches? What do you remember about them? Do please let me know in the comments below, as I would really love to hear your memories. The next photo you can see shows the Borough Theater in Wallsend. Now obviously I'm not going to cover the history of the building, as I have already covered that in another video. But I really love this old photo, and I do think that sometimes you have to look quite closely at some of these old photos to make sure that you don't miss anything. Now the Borough Theater in this photo sadly looks in a pretty bad condition. And to be honest, it actually looked in better condition when it was demolished in 2011. And this photo was taken in mid-2010, but as you can see, it looks a lot cleaner than it does in the 1960s black and white photo. The film being advertised is Norman Wisdom, There Was a Crooked Man, and this was released in 1960. And where the sign is, I believe, was the entrance to the picture hall. And just beside the sign is another sign on the lamppost. And this one I think is pretty hard to read, but it states the Sir G.B. Hunter Memorial Hospital, and it's kind of pointing up Park Road. Going back to the full photo, a couple of shops I can see are, I believe, Bradford's, and a little further along you can see S. Smiles shop. And right on the very end I can see the sign for the Pearl Assurance Company Limited. How many of you watching this can remember those shops? I sadly can't make out the names on the other two shops, so if you know what they were, do please let me know in the comments below. The next photo you can see is one of the Forum, and this photo dates from when the Forum first opened in 1966. You can see from the boards at the bottom end near the High Street that there is still some work going on, so it's not quite finished yet. Now I can't read all the names of the shops, but the first one up from the boards is the Hadrian, and this would eventually become Presto's and move a little further up so that it was more or less opposite the Anson. You can also see the shoe shop Leonard's, however I don't remember it in this location. I remember it when it was on the corner of the Forum and the High Street and was probably a slightly bigger shop. Next to Leonard's is Carrick's the Bakers. Now Carrick's was a real North East bakers with their main bakery in Cowgate. They were later taken over by the Baker's Oven, which I do remember really well, and eventually most of the shops appear to have been taken over by Greggs. The bakery in Cowgate closed down in 2004. Now I'm sure that many of you watching this will remember Carrick's and Leonard's too, of course. I can't help but wonder when I look at this Forum photo what the people of Wallsend thought of their new shopping centre. At the time it opened, the shops were smaller than they are today, and the Forum itself was filled out with lots and lots of different shops. Of course, this was also a time when people shopped daily, and on the High Street there were no online shops for you to go to, and there were no really large out-of-town supermarkets either, so no doubt everyone in Wallsend would have thought the new Forum was amazing. The next two photos you will see are from Queen Elizabeth II's tour of the UK after her coronation, and the tour took place in 1954. The first photo shows you Wallsend Town Hall, and you can probably just see the Queen and the Mayor at the time, Alderman T. Connell, just stepping out of the Town Hall entrance. There are several photographers standing on the left-hand side of the photo, and it has to be said there's hardly any there really compared to what you would see today for a royal visit or something similar. And I have been reliably informed that the police car outside of the town hall has the registration DNL 999. The next photo is one I have always found amazing. It shows the huge crowds of people outside the town hall to see the Queen. Now I'm not sure if this is a before or after photo, but you can see that the road is completely blocked, and in the distance you can see two buses simply waiting to get past. You can also see members of the army, and at the bottom right you can see a group of firemen, and you can also see lots of policemen dotted around in the crowds. Everyone in the crowd looks really happy, and considering it was October and probably a bit on the chilly side, it was certainly a good turnout. I have looked closely at this photo, but so far I haven't been able to spot anyone I know in the crowds. Were you there on the day to see the Queen? Do let me know in the comments below if you were. This next photo is one of my personal favourite. It shows my granddad standing underneath the Burn Bridge. It's a really simple photo, but it shows a real glimpse into the past and what things were like back in the day, when you didn't pull on your jeans, trainers and a baseball cap to go out. You simply weren't dressed properly unless you had a suit, shirt and tie and a very good hat on. And you even had to dress this way to sit on the beach, although I have to admit that my example of that is my great-granddad and not my granddad, and he sat on the beach in his suit, shirt and tie and a ridiculously large hat, but he had pulled up his trouser legs to go for a paddle. The next photo is another from the late Ian Ferguson, and it shows the crowds heading along to the Green on Good Friday. To be honest, it looks to me like the Green is so jam-packed with people that everyone at the back simply just can't move forward to join in. It looks like just about every single person in Wallsend has headed out for the Good Friday parade. And I can actually see a man on a bike, and I can honestly say he had absolutely no chance of riding that in those crowds. How many of you watching this can remember the Good Friday March to the Green? And if you can you remember it ever being as busy as it is in this photo? Sadly, there is no date with the photo, but it could be the late 50s or the early 60s. This next photo is a much more recent one. I would again say it is sometime in the 80s, and it shows part of the high street looking along from the junction of Station Road. You can see the North of England Building Society, Dixon's Pork Shop and Greenwood's, and I can just about make out the sign for Northern Rock in the distance as well. And I can also see that part of the old Carville Road Co-op that fronted onto the high street has been painted a rather fetching yellow colour. And I do say that very sarcastically, as it looks awful. Now, I do like yellow, but I just don't like that. Can anyone spot or name any of the other shops on this part of the high street? The final photo this week is another really simple one. It shows kids crossing the road after coming out of St Peter's School at the top of Church Bank. Now, I know that you can't actually see the school, but you can see the church, and I am sure it will bring back some memories for some of you watching who probably crossed over the road at that very spot many years ago. And I just want to say that I can't see any road markings and certainly no signs of any yellow lines. So I do hope that you have enjoyed this second little video in the series of old Wallsend photos. I hope it has brought back some memories for you, and that you have also enjoyed looking at some of the old photos. I would love to hear your memories about any of them in the comments below. I do thank you all very much for watching, and I do hope to see you all again very soon.